The studio lights were blinding, the air thick with anticipation as the producers counted down in the control room. Millions of viewers across the world were tuning in for one reason: a rare live debate between former U.S. President Donald Trump and Burkina Faso's rising leader, Ibrahim Traoré. Trump leaned forward in his chair, grinning confidently as the red light above the camera came on. He didn't wait for the moderator's opening question. "Let's get one thing straight," he said, pointing at the split screen where Traoré appeared from Ouagadougou. "People like you should sit down and learn. America built the world you're benefiting from. We did the work, and you're playing catch-up, so stop acting like you know better than us." The studio audience gasped. Some laughed. Even the moderator seemed frozen for a moment. Traoré didn't blink. He sat perfectly still, hands folded, eyes locked on the camera. It felt, for a moment, as if the whole world had paused. Then, calmly and without raising his voice, he replied, "If you truly built the world, then you should know how to listen to it. So instead of telling us to sit down and learn, stand up and listen." No one in the studio moved. A silence heavier than any applause filled the room. Traoré leaned forward, as if closing the distance between continents. "We didn't come here to be lectured by those who ignore their own failures. We came to remind you that power means nothing when it refuses to hear the truth." The live chat on the broadcast exploded. Within minutes, clips of the exchange were being shared on every platform. "Stand Up and Listen" flooded Twitter, TikTok and Telegram like a rallying cry. In the control room, a producer murmured to herself, "He flipped the entire narrative in one sentence." Trump leaned back, clearly irritated, gripping the edge of the desk. And across Africa, people weren't just watching, they were smiling. The moderator, still stunned by the exchange, tried to regain control of the broadcast. "Mr. Trump, Mr. Traoré, let's keep this discussion constructive. President Trump, do you wish to respond to?" Trump didn't wait. "Respond? I don't need to respond, I know exactly how this works. He talks about truth and listening, but his country still relies on American support. They wouldn't last 6 months without us." 6 months. That's a fact." He turned toward the camera and jabbed a finger forward, as if speaking directly to Traoré. "So before you start giving speeches, maybe try building something on your own first." The words hit like a punch. People across the world waited to see if Traoré would fire back with anger. He didn't. He sat still for a long moment, then spoke quietly, but every word cut deeper than any shout. "We are building clinics built with our own hands. Schools built with our own money. Roads built with the strength of our people, not with permission. We're not the ones who need 6 months. We've already survived 6 centuries of people like you telling us where to stand." Trump shifted uncomfortably but forced a smile. "Sure you did," he replied with a sarcastic grin. "That's why everyone still comes to us for help." Traoré didn't blink. "They came to you because for a long time, they had no other choice. Today, they do." The moderator looked down at her notes, realizing the debate had already moved beyond the script. And somewhere in a cafe in Dakar, a young man paused the livestream and whispered to his friends. For the first time, someone told him to listen. Trump leaned forward again, clearly irritated now, his face tightening as the moderator tried to move to the next question. "Tell me, Captain," Trump said, using the title like an insult rather than a rank, "if you're so independent, why do you still trade with American companies? Why do you still use American currency and American systems? You talk about freedom, but you're still standing on a foundation we built." He sat back, satisfied, expecting the question to corner Traoré in front of the world. Traoré didn't flinch. In fact, this time, a small, controlled smile crossed his lips. "We trade because we believe in cooperation, not subordination. But the foundation you claim to have built was never meant for us. It was designed to keep us reliant and silent." He leaned slightly closer to the camera. "And now that we build our own foundation, you call it dangerous. Not because it threatens people, but because it threatens control." The live audience murmured. The comments sections erupted again. "It threatens control, /stand up and listen, /Traoré fire." Trump tried to laugh it off. Control? Nobody's trying to control you. We're trying to protect you. That's what America does, we protect the world. And you know what? Deep down you still need that protection. Traoré's expression hardened. Protection becomes control the moment it is given without respect and taken without consent. He paused. If you truly believe in protection, then protect your own people first. From poverty. From division. From the illusion that the world still kneels at your feet. The moderator opened her mouth to intervene, but couldn't speak. In living rooms and cafes across Africa, people leaned closer to their screens, eyes wide, as if witnessing something they never expected to see on a Western broadcast. A head of state refusing to bow and making the world listen. Trump's face turned a shade darker as he adjusted the microphone in front of him. The moderator, sensing rising tension, tried a diplomatic approach. Gentlemen, perhaps we can move to a more constructive topic. Trump cut her off with a wave of his hand. Constructive? I am being constructive. I'm telling him the truth. These countries love to talk about independence until something goes wrong. Then suddenly they come knocking on America's door. They expect us to fix it. His voice grew louder, and the tone shifted from confident to accusatory. So go ahead. Refuse our help, build your little schools and clinics. But when things fall apart, don't come running to us. Traoré waited until Trump finished, then spoke softly, the kind of calm that makes people lean in. You misunderstand. We're not refusing help. We are refusing ownership. Help offered as a weapon is not help, it's leverage. And freedom built on leverage is not freedom. He paused, letting the words settle across the studio, then added. And when something goes wrong, we will turn to our people, not to the ones who spent decades benefiting from our weakness. In the control room, the executive producer whispered, he's not debating, he's redefining the terms. Back on screen, Trump attempted to regain his footing. You think you sound strong, but in the end you'll realize America still leads the world. Traoré looked directly into the lens, as if he were speaking past Trump, straight to everyone watching. Then let the world decide. Let them watch who builds. And who tries to silence. The moderator exhaled softly, realizing she wasn't moderating an argument anymore. She was witnessing a shift. The debate was only halfway over, but the atmosphere had completely changed. The studio audience no longer reacted with laughter or applause. Instead, they watched in silence like spectators to something historic. Trump leaned back, trying a different tactic. His tone shifted, becoming almost paternal. Look, Ibrahim, I admire confidence. I really do. But there's a reason America is where it is. We built institutions. We built power. We won. That's not arrogance, that's facts. And if you want your nation to succeed, maybe you should take a few notes, instead of trying to lecture us. He said it with a smile, like a father giving advice to a child. Traoré's eyes didn't move. Power without humility is not strength, it's insecurity dressed as pride. You won by writing the rules. We are simply refusing to play by rules that were never written for us. Trump opened his mouth, but Traoré didn't let him interrupt. You keep asking the world to sit down and learn. Maybe it's time you stand up. And understand that the world has changed. The line rippled through the live chat like a shockwave. #StandUpAndListen shot back to the top of the trending list. Somewhere in New York, a news anchor whispered off camera, that just became the headline. On the screen, Trump let out a forced laugh and replied. Changed? No. No, no. The world still needs America. You'll see that soon enough. Traoré didn't smile. He simply answered. Needing cooperation is not the same as needing permission. We will always work with those who respect us. But never again with those who speak over us. The studio remained silent for several long seconds. And somewhere in Ouagadougou, in a crowded cafe filled with students watching on a flickering TV, someone quietly said, He didn't just answer him. He corrected the entire sentence.
The moderator tried once more to steer the conversation toward neutral ground. Perhaps we could move on to potential areas of cooperation, climate, trade. But Trump wasn't ready to leave the fight. Sure, he said with a shrug, we can talk about cooperation. But cooperation starts with respect, and that means recognizing who's in charge. You don't walk into a house and tell the owner how to organize it. He folded his arms, clearly pleased with the analogy. Traoré tilted his head slightly, like someone examining a cracked foundation. We did not walk into your house, he said calmly. It was you who walked into ours. And then decided to stay, and rearrange the furniture. A few people in the studio actually gasped. Traoré continued, voice still steady, but sharper now. And when we finally asked you to leave, you called it chaos. You called it dangerous. You called it ungrateful. The screen split showed Trump's jaw tightening. But it is not chaos when a people reclaim their own home. It is not dangerous when a nation discovers its own voice. And it is not ungrateful to refuse instruction from those who never listened. In living rooms across Burkina Faso, and far beyond, people sat forward, almost holding their breath. Trump, now visibly irritated, leaned toward the camera. You know what? You keep your voice. Just don't come knocking when you finally realize how much you still need us. Traoré didn't blink. We won't knock. We'll build the door ourselves. For 2 full seconds, there was complete silence, on set, online, and in households around the world. And then, the comments sections erupted. The broadcast producers didn't expect it. They thought people would start tuning out once the debate turned this intense. Instead, viewership skyrocketed. Clips of Traoré's lines, "Stand up and listen, we will build the door," were being clipped and shared across every social media platform in real time. Even major U.S. commentators began to admit on air, this isn't going the way Trump expected. Back in the studio, Trump tried to regain control of the narrative. He leaned into the microphone and used the tone he reserved for campaign rallies. Let's be very clear. All this talk about building doors and finding your voice is nice. But at the end of the day, power stays where it belongs. And it belongs with the United States of America. He paused, waiting for applause. The studio was silent. Traoré didn't hesitate. Power belongs to those who serve their people. Not to those who expect the world to serve them. And if you believe power belongs to you, then you've forgotten what leadership actually is. Trump forced a laugh. Here we go with another lecture. Traoré cut him off, calm but firm. A lecture is when one side speaks and the other must remain silent. A conversation is when both sides are heard. For too long, only one side has done the speaking. He leaned forward. Tonight, Mr. Trump, you were forced to listen. The moderator looked stunned. She glanced at the clock, still time left, but no more questions prepared. In Ouagadougou, crowds gathered in streets and cafes, standing around radios and phones, not cheering, just listening in absolute silence. Because for the first time, someone had told a former U.S. president, live on air, to stop talking and hear the world. The moderator, visibly overwhelmed, finally stepped in. Gentlemen, in the interest of time, I'd like to ask each of you for a closing statement. Trump went first. He straightened his suit and delivered a rehearsed line. America still leads the world, and no amount of speeches will change that. We've built an order that brings prosperity to everyone, including nations like yours. If you want to succeed, you're welcome to join. But don't pretend you're leading the way. He leaned back, confident the closing blow had been delivered. Traoré looked directly into the camera. He didn't raise his tone. He spoke like someone stating a simple fact. Leadership is not measured by how many people follow you, but by how many people you listen to. He paused, letting the words breathe. If your order brings prosperity, then why do so many suffer beneath it? If you built the foundation of our future, then why must we keep asking permission to stand on it? The camera slowly zoomed in. We don't want to join an order that requires silence. We want to build a world where every nation, large or small, is heard. The moderator lowered her head as if she'd forgotten she was on air. The studio audience sat frozen in place. And somewhere in the control room, a sound engineer whispered to himself. This isn't a debate anymore. It's a correction. The live broadcast continued, but something had changed in the air. It wasn't just two leaders speaking anymore, it was one of them reshaping the terms of the conversation in real time. Calls started coming in from across the globe. Commentators in Europe and South America interrupted their regular programming to carry the debate. Social media feeds were flooded with split-screen images of Trump pointing and Traoré calmly staring back. In Los Angeles, a political analyst admitted on live TV. Whether you agree with him or not, Traoré just forced America to pause. Trump, realizing he was losing the crowd, went for one last swing. Look, enough. You're talking about listening and dignity, but your country still needs our support, our funds, our security. Be honest. If America steps away today, what happens tomorrow? Traoré didn't react right away. He let the silence work for him, again. Then he answered with the calmness of someone who already knew the truth. If America steps away, tomorrow we keep building. We keep teaching our children. We keep planting our fields. We keep standing, because we have already learned how to stand without you. Trump scoffed under his breath, but didn't interrupt. Traoré continued, eyes fixed directly into the camera. You think the world stops because you step away. But the world only stopped believing that when it finally stood up and started speaking for itself. In cafes from Dakar to Johannesburg, people nodded in silence. Not cheering, understanding. And for the first time in the debate, Donald Trump had no immediate comeback. He simply stared at the screen, as the silence answered for him. The moderator cleared her throat, eyes still wide in disbelief. President Traoré. Mr. Trump. We are out of time. Thank you for joining us. The broadcast ended. But the conversation didn't. Across the world, people remained glued to their screens. Replays of Traoré's calm responses spread faster than any official commentary. News outlets labeled the debate a turning point in global discourse. In Ouagadougou, crowds spilled into the streets, not to celebrate a victory, but to acknowledge a shift. Candles were placed on windowsills, and on walls people wrote 4 simple words in white chalk. Stand up and listen. Traoré stepped out of the temporary studio where he had spoken. He didn't smile. Instead, he looked toward the night sky as if weighing the responsibility of what had just occurred. One of his advisors whispered, "They heard you." Traoré answered quietly. It wasn't about being heard. It was about reminding them that they are not the only ones who can speak. Meanwhile in New York, Donald Trump remained in the studio long after the cameras were off. For the first time in his career, he had spoken. And someone had refused to sit down. And in that refusal, millions around the world discovered something powerful. Silence is a choice. But so is a voice. That night, the world didn't go to sleep thinking about who won the debate. It went to sleep thinking about who finally stood up. They told us to sit down and learn. They raised their voices and expected us to stay silent. But tonight, we proved something simple. The world no longer listens to power. Power now has to learn to listen to the world. We don't speak to be rebellious. We speak because our people have earned the right to be heard. And we don't ask for permission to stand. We stand, because silence was never an option. So to anyone still shouting from above. We are done sitting. We are done learning your lessons. Now it's your turn. Stand up and listen.